In this video, I want to talk about the idea of number paths and number lines. As children are learning to count, they can count physical objects as well as events, like how many steps they take or how many jumps they do. And many children's games involve moving a game piece along a path. And if these paths are numbered, it is considered a number path. So here's an example of a number path. I have a path that's labeled with numbers. And these are very informal precursors to the concept of things like distance and length, as well as a mathematical concept of a number line. So now that we have the idea of a number path, let's actually look at a number line. For a number line, the first step is to actually just start with a line and pick some point, we'll say this point here, to be 0. We then pick a point somewhere to the right to represent 1. And this distance from 0 to 1 right here, so the distance here, this is known as a unit. And the choice of unit is known as the scale. From there, every counting number is represented by a point on the number line located that many units to the right of 0. So for instance, 2 would be 2 units to the right. 3 would then be 3 units to the right. 4 is 4 units, etc. So the main thing is the distance between 0 and 1 is the same as the distance between 1 and 2, which is the same as the distance between 2 and 3, etc. And the idea of a number line is going to allow the expansion to things like decimals, fractions, and negatives, whereas a number path does not do that since it signifies jumps that we count on. So number paths are going to specifically look at counting numbers, whereas number lines will let us extend to decimals and fractions and negatives. So these allow us to unify different kinds of numbers and present them as a coherent whole instead of separate things. As a quick summary, number paths are going to have distinct steps along the path, which are easier to count, like children counting their own steps. On the other hand, number lines are going to rely on ideas of length and distance from 0. And sometimes number lines get misinterpreted as counting tick marks as we go from 0 to 1 and then 1 to 2, etc. But lines really rely on this idea of distance from 0 and length, and is going to allow us to kind of fill in the gaps with negative numbers and decimals and fractions.